Hey everybody, welcome. Welcome to live Q&A here at Trauma Recovery University. This is where we all come every single week on Mondays, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern. And I'm just going to share who this video is for and who it's not for. And if you're watching a replay, welcome. You're welcome here with us. This is a YouTube channel for adult survivors of complex trauma, those living with symptoms of complex PTSD, adult survivors of childhood abuse, any type of child abuse, whether that's childhood sexual abuse, physical abuse, verbal, emotional, ritual, cult abuse, financial abuse, any type of abuse during childhood that happened over a long period of time. Really quickly, I just want to say thank you to everyone who helps make this broadcast possible. We have amazing volunteers. Tonight's topic is psychopathy. I have a feeling that tonight's topic is going to be very triggering for many of you, so please, 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 trigger warning. Please do not stay watching the broadcast if you are triggered. Dry mouth, sick stomach, palmy hands, or clammy hands, clamminess on the palms of your hands, palmy hands. I'd love for you to get the proper care you need. Reach out to our friends over at RAINN, RAINN.org, or crisistextline.org. So who is this video for and who is this video not for? So if you are a survivor or a trauma-informed professional or an advocate, this broadcast is for you. You are welcome here. You're welcome here with us. If you are a bully, a cyberbully, a troll, someone who spews negativity everywhere, you're not really welcome here. You can leave now. And we're not going to tolerate any type of unkindness or abuse or any type of trolling or luring people in, sort of looking for reaction seeking. We're not really going to tolerate any of that. I'm going to make sure that our moderators block you or stick you in timeout if you are here on a regular basis and this is a place where you like to come and receive support. If you're in a place where you want to receive support for the trauma that you've endured or give support to others, then this is for you. So welcome. That's who this is for and who it isn't for. And again, tonight's topic is psychopathy, living with PTSD, CPTSD symptoms as a result of someone who is psychopathic. We're going to go through, we're going to cover what is psychopathy, okay, and not sensationalistic pop culture terms for a psychopath, like, oh, you're so psycho, she's so psycho. What is psycho? Like, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about clinical terms. What is psychopathy and what isn't it? So we're going to cover that first, and then we're going to go through 5 stages of healing from abuse from someone who is a psychopath. Now, in order for you to heal, your perpetrator, your abuser, your enablers, anyone involved in your abuse does not need to be diagnosed. The only truth that matters while you're here on this channel is your truth. I just want you to know that. As soon as you are able to embrace the fact that you may never be validated for your abuse, your abusers may never apologize or acknowledge that they've ever done anything wrong, the sooner you're able to admit that, accept it, as hard as it is to accept, and move forward with the mindset of I deserve to heal regardless of someone else's ability to accept responsibility for their actions, then you're going to be in a better place. So if you're not in that place where you're willing to embrace a different mindset, you're willing to receive support, you're willing to give support, you're willing to look at a very simple framework that's going to help you heal from this type of abuse, then just pause the video, come back later. No need to stay any longer than you need to, because I really want this to remain a positive environment for those of you who have decided to come here tonight. We have quite a few of you that are already here, and I want to be really transparent about something right now as we're transitioning into tonight's topic, what is psychopathy and what are the 5 stages of healing from someone who's been psychopathically abusive. And then just some inspirational quotes and so forth. I want to be really transparent about some things, okay? I have been avoiding this topic. You guys have emailed me. You've sent me voice memos. You have DM'd me. You've sent me messenger messages. You've reached out to me in every which way possible. And you've requested this topic. This topic has been on my list for probably about a year now. And I've been avoiding it. And I'm just going to be honest with you and tell you why I've been avoiding it. First of all, it's a hard topic. It's a painful topic, especially if you were raised in an environment that you believe to be abusive by someone who is either diagnosed or undiagnosed psychopathic. That is the case for me, and it's painful. It's just a painful reality to accept, Sometimes we would rather look the other way. But here I am, I show up with you guys week after week, we have to feel all of our feels if we're ever gonna heal. We can't numb stuff and avoid. We have to fully accept the reality of our abuse if we're ever going to fully heal. And so me finally tackling this topic, it's almost like a deep cleansing breath for me, because I want to walk my talk here with you guys. I want to be very transparent with you in my own healing journey. In an effort to ease my stress a little bit, I changed up the venue tonight. Normally I'm sitting in my kitchen because the lighting is usually a lot better there. But I turned on some artificial light. I opened up my drapes, and I'm hoping that the lighting is okay tonight, and that I will sit in my comfortable chair, and I will take a deep breath, and I will just do my thing and not worry so much about aesthetics and lighting and whatever. I'm just going to sit here, I'm wearing the same outfit I wore yesterday, so I didn't have to put on anything new. I just pulled it up out of a pile. And I'm just going to sit here, and I'm just going to share. Again, like I mentioned in the comments, if you're here for the live discussion, welcome. Please go all the way up to 2:17 p.m. if you possibly can, and read everything I wrote to you when I was posting this live session here for us. I want you to know why you're here, what direction the conversation's going in, and most importantly, I want to hear from you. I want to know what questions you have regarding CPTSD symptoms, healing from them as a result of someone who is psychopathic. And even more importantly than that, I want to know what helpful tips and advice you guys have for others, because you guys are amazingly resourceful, and I just want to acknowledge that. So whatever it is that you guys have to share with everyone else tonight, please keep it in as much of a framed in a way that would be helpful as possible. We're never critical or unkind to those who come here, especially those who are here for the very first time. If you notice someone is here for the first time, or they mention being here in the live discussion for the first time, please welcome them with open arms and be very, very kind to them. And if you're here on a replay, the only way I know if this content is helping you is if you leave a comment below when the comment section is open, if you're here watching a replay. So if you're here for the live discussion, if you can hear me, if you are grateful to be here and to be learning healthy coping strategies for dealing with CPTSD symptoms as a result of being in an abusive environment with a psychopath, then if you would give this video a thumbs up, I would be so grateful. You guys ask me all the time, how can I support the work you do, Athena? When you give these videos a thumbs up and you participate in the weekly discussions and you leave comments after the fact, it tells YouTube that the content I'm putting out is applicable, it's relevant, and it's useful and helpful to the community. And it helps other survivors know that they're not alone, because my videos go up in search the more thumbs up I get. So if you just pause and give this video a thumbs up, that would be amazing. And if you're not subscribed to this channel, I would like it if you'd subscribe to this channel and click the little bell so you get notifications. There's a lot of changes in the works going behind the scenes for our channel here, and I'm super excited to be here with you on a weekly basis, and more often than a weekly basis moving forward. So without further ado, I'm just going to jump into tonight's topic, psychopathy, and I'm going to do some screen shares. Right now, within the next 30 to 45 minutes, please get your questions in. Tag Matt at Surviving My Past. If you're over on Twitter using the hashtag No More Shame, I'm so excited that you're here. If you would tag at Song Warriors, you tag Dawn so that she could let me know that you have a question. That would be awesome. Use the hashtag No More Shame if you're over on Twitter if you have a question so that we're able to get to it. And I'll be answering your questions right after tonight's screen share, all the way up until the time we end this broadcast. So thank you so much for taking the time to be here every single week and for braving this difficult topic with me. I really appreciate it. So I'm going to jump into tonight's very first screen share. Down below in the description section of this video, you will find 3 website links. They are the websites where I found all of tonight's screen share information. There is a website that is dedicated solely to the study of psychopathy. And this is a gentleman who is a doctor. He studies psychopathy for a living. He publishes his findings in many medical journals globally. And he has a website dedicated to the study of psychopathy. So that is located down in the description section. There is also a gal that I believe she's located in Texas, and she is a licensed mental health counselor, and she helps people who are healing from narcissistic abuse, who are living with symptoms of CPTSD, and who have been abused by those who are narcissistic sociopaths, narcissistic psychopaths. I realized that when we did our World Narcissistic Abuse, our virtual summit for World Narcissistic Abuse Awareness Day, there was somebody in the comments that were saying, a narcissistic sociopath and a narcissistic psychopath are exactly the same thing. They're interchangeable. And I believed them because I figured that they were more of an expert on this topic than I was. And when I spent all the time that I've spent studying psychopathy in preparation for tonight's broadcast, I learned that there are some subtle nuances in the personality of the person who is either the psychopath or the sociopath. And in order for me to simplify those terms for you, I'll just break it down as simply as possible in one sentence if I can. And that is that a sociopath and a psychopath are very, very, very similar. They are both narcissists. So not all narcissists are sociopaths or psychopaths, but all sociopaths and psychopaths are narcissists. And the subtle nuances and the difference in their personalities, just from an educational perspective and an informational perspective for you, the mental health consumer, and the person who has been in a relationship with either a psychopath or a sociopath. What I'm going to share with you tonight is purely psychopathy, and the subtle nuances, the subtle differences between psychopathy and someone who is sociopathic is that psychopaths tend to be less calculated, less careful, less slick. So a psychopath will be more erratic in their behaviors, whereas a sociopath can sort of play it cool and sort of blend in a little bit and pretend to be just a little bit more likable. They fly under the radar just a little bit more than a psychopath. So there are a couple of other nuances, but that's the simplest way I can explain it to you. It's not really worth going into in depth during this particular video, because this is all about you, the survivor, healing from someone who has been psychopathically abusive in your life, whether that is a parent, a caregiver, a loved one, a sibling, an aunt, an uncle, a grandparent, or if you are in an abusive relationship, an interpersonal romantic relationship with someone who is a psychopath, then you will see some red flags as well. So some subtle differences in psychopathy versus someone who's a sociopath. But we will be talking tonight mostly about someone who is a narcissist, so that we will be discussing aspects of narcissistic abuse, and then someone who's specifically psychopathic. So first screen share, and this isn't going to be like a narc bash. This isn't some a place for everybody to show up and just bash the narcissist in their life and sort of just spew all that everywhere. We're all here to heal. We're all here to help one another. And it's a tragic, horrible, horrific thing that you've lived through if you're watching this video and you've been abused by someone who is a psychopath. And we're going to be as helpful as possible and as educational as possible in this video. So hopefully that lays it all out for you. I'll go ahead and do our first screen share. Let me just peek over and make sure you guys can hear me and see me okay. Let's see. It's a big topic tonight. Thank you so much to Matt and Dawn who are moderating. You guys are amazing. I want to say hello to John Harvey, Heroes Don't Wear Capes, Poppy, Monica, Austin, Sabra, and Shalene. And did I say Ann? Did I say Ann Austin? I hope I did. Hi, Ann. And then I believe Lisa, it's Lisa's first time here tonight if she happened to make it. So please embrace Lisa with open arms if you do see her. And I'm going to go ahead and go into tonight's first screen share. Give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to this channel, participate in the conversation. Let me know if you guys can see this. First screen share here. So this is a psychopathy checklist. Again, the website where I downloaded this information is located in the description section of this video. These are the personality traits of someone who is psychopathic. They tend to be glib and have superficial charm. And if some of these words don't make sense to you, like what is glib, Athena, you can simply type, like pull up Wikipedia, W-I-K-I, on your phone or in a browser, and just type in the word glib if you're not sure what glib means. And we all know what superficial charm is. They sort of charm you. They're very charismatic. Glib is someone who is sort of like, yeah, you know, like sort of lackadaisical, or that's not even the proper word. They just sort of have, like, they're sort of witty and they have, like, they're just, oh goodness, I can't even find the word right now. Let me see if I can think of the word that I'm trying to find. It's going to drive me crazy. I would normally just skip right on, you guys, but it's going to drive me a little bit crazy if I don't give you a proper definition of the word glib. So, I don't know. It's like someone who just, you know, like they just spew things out like thoughtlessly. Let me just see if I can pull this up super quick. Having a ready flow of words but lacking thought or understanding, superficial or shallow. There, I feel better. I'm going to move through them a lot quicker now. Number 2, grandiose self-worth, a grandiose sense of self, like a really high opinion of themselves. Number 3, a need for stimulation or proneness to boredom, like they need to constantly be entertained. They need instant gratification at all times, and they're very prone to being bored. Like they get bored very easily if you're not entertaining them at all times. Number 4, pathological lying, and we know that when we see the word pathological, it means that they're doing something compulsively. So someone who, for instance, is pathologically lying, they're lying on a regular basis. And let me see here really quick. So it's almost like they can't help themselves, is what I'm trying to say. Like Like, I remember I had a relationship when I was very, very young, before my son was born, right before he was born, actually. And this person, if you asked them if it was hot or cold outside, they would lie, or like they would say, "Oh yeah, it's really cold outside," even though it wasn't. It was like actually rather warm out. Or you would say, "Oh hey, what time did you get to work today?" Or what time are you getting off work today? "Oh yeah, well, I got off work at 4. When they didn't get off work at 4, they actually got off work at 5. Like, it's just they lie about dumb things. It's just a pathological thing. It's like they can't even help themselves. Number 5, conning and manipulative. So we know what it's like to be conned, right? Someone tricks us, and we know what manipulative means. Number 6, lack of remorse or guilt. Number 7, shallow affect. So when someone has a shallow affect, they really just stay on the surface. They don't go into a deep conversation with you about anything whatsoever. It's like speaking to a brick wall. Like there's no inflection in the way that they communicate. They're just very shallow. There's no depth or meaning to the relationship. Number 8, callousness or lack of empathy. We talk about this a lot in narcissistic abuse, the lack of empathy. And we know that empathy is being able to put yourself in another person's shoes, considering someone else's feelings. And callousness is just someone who's just generally sort of unkind or rough, which goes right alongside with being glib. Number 9, parasitic lifestyle. Now, we all know what a parasite is. A parasite, its only means of survival is by sucking the life out of another organism. So think of this as a person who kind of just sucks the life out of you, or you are constantly feeling drained when you're around them, and their entire lifestyle revolves around just sort of mooching off of everybody around them, whether that's emotionally or financially. They just mooch. They are just a parasite. They could not survive on their own. They have to attach themselves to someone else in order to survive. Number 10, poor behavioral controls. They don't have control over their behavior. They're very impulsive. Number 11, promiscuous sexual behavior. This is self-explanatory. Promiscuous, having risky sex without using birth control, multiple partners. Number 12, early behavior problems. We hear this a lot. You know, perhaps if you've ever watched documentaries on different serial killers, or, you know, people who they talk about being a psychopath, early behavior problems, many of them would be like wetting the bed until, you know, past the age of normal wetting the bed. Like a lot of people that are psychopathic, they wet the bed until they were 10, 11, 12 years old. And I don't want you to misunderstand me. I'm not saying that if you have one of these characteristics, or you're recognizing something in yourself, because I know us, I know this community, this survivor community. I serve this community every single week for over 3 years. And I know that every single time I talk about a topic, the first question that comes up is, I see myself in some of this, Athena. What if I'm a psychopath? So I just want you to know that that's self-awareness, and self-awareness is not something that a psychopath embodies. So what we're looking at here is this list of things that are prevalent in the life of a psychopath. Things that are, they all line up. We tick off all the boxes, and it's something that is a pattern. We're looking for a pattern here, okay? So, for instance, if you're saying, like I have many people in our community who, myself included, who wet the bed up until they were, I don't know, maybe 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, right? And that's an early behavior problem, or even lashing out or getting in trouble at school, you know, but that doesn't make us a psychopath. So I hope I'm being clear and that you understand what I'm saying. Number 13, lack of realistic long-term goals. This goes hand in hand with number 2, which is having a grandiose sense of self. Realistic long-term goals are people who think through their actions. They think about what's going to happen if they do something. They think about cause and effect. And they have realistic long-term goals, like, is something attainable? Is it something I can measure? Is this something that is realistic for me? Like, can I actually reach this goal? My goal is to go to college and get a job out of college and get married and raise a family. Those are realistic goals. But if someone is talking about, like, for instance, if you've seen the movies, the documentaries, they'll talk a lot about those living with psychopathy. Those who are psychopathic individuals, they talk about they're going to take over the world. They're the king of the world. They're going to take over the world. Everyone they know in their whole life is going to look to them for advice. They're going to bow down to them. Very unrealistic long-term goals. Number 14, impulsivity. We talked about this over with not being able to, number 3, the need for stimulation and being prone to boredom. So they're very impulsive. Number 10, poor behavioral controls. Number 14 and number 10 go hand in hand. So very impulsive. They don't take responsibility for their actions. They don't think ahead. Number 15, irresponsibility. That goes hand in hand. Not responsible for your actions. You don't take responsibility for the things that you thought, said, and done. You always point the finger, or they blame everybody around them. It's the system's fault. It's the man's fault. It's my parents' fault. It's my teacher's fault. It's the police officer's fault. It is, it's the victim's fault. They often blame the victim. They blame, they flip the script, right? And they blame the people they're abusing. They say that we're the crazy ones, right? And irresponsibility is also just not being responsible, right? You're not managing your finances. You're not showing up for work. You're not showing up for school. You're not taking care of yourself. You're not brushing your teeth, taking a shower, wearing clean clothes, contributing to society, being kind to others, adding value. You don't have a good attitude. You're not a very good listener. You're very self-centered. Just not being very responsible. Like a responsible individual, they learn and they grow, and they want to learn and grow. Number 16, failure to accept responsibility. We talked about that. Number 17, short-term marital relationships. Now, I have been married multiple times, and I know there's a lot of shame attached to those of us who have been involved as a result of being severely abused, trafficked, lent out, traded for goods and services, or scapegoated in some other way. We gravitated towards abusive relationships in our adult years. So there we were, we're late teens, early 20s, even into our 30s, maybe even 40s, and we're seeking out relationships that are familiar to us, which are still abusive, before we entered recovery for our abuse, and we learned that we were repeating a pattern. So if you're here and you're watching this video and you're interested in getting better and learning how to have healthy relationships, navigate the waters of recovery, and heal, then there's no shame in you being married and divorced multiple times, because you've learned from your mistakes and you are moving forward and trying to cultivate healthy interpersonal relationships, establish and maintain healthy boundaries, and seek out safe people to connect yourself with. So what we're talking about here on number 17, someone who is psychopathic, perhaps, they get married very quickly, and then as soon as that person doesn't live up to their standards, they get bored immediately, like number 3, and they move on, and then they get married again, and then they lie about it, number 4, They don't even tell their new partners that they are, married and divorced several times. They con people, number 5. They don't have any remorse or guilt about the pathological lying or anything else that they did to lure you in to the relationship just so they could discard you and divorce you. So that's what we're talking about on number 17. Number 18, juvenile delinquency, shoplifting, petty theft, bullying, carjacking, gang activity, and again, no remorse. All of this ties in with not having any remorse, okay? Number 19, revocation of conditional release. Now, you might have to do some research on this. I researched what exactly this even means, and there's a really in-depth answer to this. So I would like for you guys to do your own research on number 19. And then number 20, criminal versatility, meaning they've done several different things that could be considered criminal activity. I know some of you are really struggling with the concept of all of this, and it's really painful to think about the fact that you were in a relationship with someone who's psychopathic. Let me just get a drink of water really quick. So you guys might be sitting here going, you know what, this totally sucks because, this describes my marriage. What do I do, Athena? I'm married to this person. You just described my husband. Athena, you just described my wife. What am I supposed to do now? I'm stuck. You just described my mother, and you've just described my wife. What am I supposed to do? I'm married. I was raised in this environment. I didn't know any better, and now here I am, and I'm stuck in this relationship. First and foremost, I want you to get the care that you deserve, okay? So I want you to know that you're not alone if that is you and you're stuck in this relationship with this person, okay? You're not alone. And there are support groups. And I want to make sure that you're reaching out and you're getting trauma-informed care. Make sure you don't go to a therapist that doesn't have any type of knowledge of either psychopathy or narcissistic abuse. Make sure that your therapist is trauma-informed, because if not, they can cause more harm than good, and especially if you're seeking out someone who's in the church. Now, you guys know I'm a woman of faith. I'm a Christian. I have been described as a Bible-thumping Jesus freak. That's fine. I'll wear that like a crown, no worries. But I'll be the first to tell you that pastoral counseling is not the first place you go if you're married to a psychopath. Okay? Because they will likely tell you that you need to forgive your abuser and you need to stay married because that's God's plan for you to stay married. While I am a Bible-thumping Jesus freak, I am never the person that says that anyone being abused should ever, 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 ever stay in a relationship where you are being abused. I just want to be super clear on that right now. If you're in a relationship where you're being abused, you need to be careful and you need to get away. This isn't something to mess around with. This isn't someone that's just maybe mean to you once every 5 years, so you guys have a fight once a year or whatever. I'm talking about someone who's living with a diagnosable personality disorder. It is prevalent, it is pervasive, and they're not going to change. And pastoral counseling might not be the best place for someone to know if something is pervasive. And you don't need someone telling you that you need to forgive your abuser and stay married if you're married to someone who's psychopathic. So probably not a popular thing for me to say if someone here watching is a Christian, but I know what it's like to be in a relationship like this. I'm a survivor of psychopathic abuse. I'm a survivor of narcissistic abuse. I know what it's like to have my arm nearly broken for doing nothing more than just opening a door. I know what it's like to watch my mother be beaten from an inch of her life, bloody, blood everywhere, bruises, black eyes, broken bones, you name it. I know what it's like to live in an environment where there's police activity on a regular basis, and nothing is ever done, and nothing ever changes. So, again, this channel is from a lived experience perspective. I'm not a doctor, and I'm not a psychotherapist. I'm not a psychologist, but I will tell you this. If these traits are something that are ringing some bells for you, I want you to protect yourself because you deserve it. And there's hope after this. I've survived a lot and I'm healing, and you can too. So I'm gonna do the next few screen shares. This is a 5-stage sort of way to know if you're healing from narcissistic abuse or someone who is psychopathic, okay? This is from the gal I told you about in Texas. Her website is down in the description section. If you live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, I believe that's where she's located. I suggest you reach out to her. I follow her blog, by the way. Her blog is fascinating. She's good. So here's the second screen share. This is a five-stage sort of recovery, or how you know if you're recovering. Hopefully you guys can see this okay. Stages of recovery. So this is, you're recovering from someone who's psychopathic or narcissistic, okay? Stage 1, despair. When survivors first begin counseling for psychological abuse recovery, many don't even know they have been abused. They do know life has become unmanageable, and they are looking for answers. Some don't yet understand the full depth of what has been done to them by the abusers. At the beginning of counseling, survivors are more times than not in emotional chaos. They're anxious, depressed, or suicidal. Sometimes all of the above and more. The very first place we start is their safety, to not harm themselves. Once that has been established, we begin to work on identifying the despair the survivor feels. The first stage of recovery can be a scary season in life. Luckily, several more stages follow, and hope begins to shine through. Again, this is the gal, Shannon Thomas at southlakecounseling.org. She is located in the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and I highly recommend subscribing to her blog and saying hi from me. She doesn't even know I exist, but still, I'm a huge fan of her work. So that's stage 1. Let's move on to stage 2. Stage 2, education. Psychological abuse is exceptionally insidious, and therefore it is misunderstood. That's precisely part of the abuser's tactic to keep the abuse hidden and remain firmly in control. A victim cannot begin recovery if they cannot describe what has been done to them. Learning the common methods employed by the psychological abusers is stage 2. Survivors new to recovery should know what the following terms mean in relationship to psychological abuse: gaslighting, flying monkeys, intermittent reinforcement, trauma bonding, idealize, devalue, and discard. Those are 3 phases of a psychopathic or narcissistically abusive relationship. There are other terms, but for stage 2, this is a great starting point for those new to recovery. So I hope you guys are able to screenshot these. Just pause the video and screenshot these. Keep them with you. Save them to your photos in your phone. Educate yourself. Remind yourself that you're not crazy and that it's not your fault. You guys deserve to heal. We're going to go on to stage 3 now, okay? Stage 3, awakening. When survivors have identified their despair from having been psychologically abused in stage 1, and then they educate themselves on the specific ways abusers harm others in stage 2, an awakening happens. An awakening happens for the survivor, and that's stage 3, where we are right now. This is the point in recovery when many aha moments happen. Survivors can describe what they experienced, what they have learned. They learn new terminology, and in doing so, they no longer feel isolated in the abuse. At this stage, a survivor may start to feel empowered in their recovery journey. However, there are good days and there are bad days. It is common for survivors to swing back to despair and to awakening again. This is normal, and it's part of the process of deprogramming and healing from the psychological abuse. So many of you guys that are here right now are in this stage. You're sort of like you're messaging and you're having these light bulb moments. And we have a whole bunch of different safe groups that are all set up on Facebook. They're secret, so no one can find them. You can't search for them. But if you want to be welcomed into a secret group where you can heal, then all you have to do is go to the About section of this YouTube channel. If you're watching this on Roku TV, on our Roku channel, go over to YouTube and there's an About section. And there's just a really quick process over there in the About section. And then you can get welcomed into a secret group so that you know that you're not alone. And you can do it anonymously if you want to, if that feels safer to you. Especially if you've had a psychopath in your life, so you're just naturally you're going to feel concerned. So you are welcome to join us. It's nothing like weird. It's not a cult. There's no Tupperware. It's just a whole bunch of us over there healing together in safety, secretly away from predators, and it's a beautiful, amazing thing to behold. So you're welcome to join us if you're in the awakening phase or any other phase, by the way. We're almost done here, and then I'm going to be answering your questions. So you still have a few minutes. You still have 15 minutes to get your questions in. If this is sparking questions for you, ask your questions. Ask your questions. I want to answer your questions. Okay? Let me see. Let's go to stage 4. We're almost done. Stage 4, boundaries. After a survivor of psychological abuse has identified their despair in stage 1, educated themselves on the specifics of psychological abuse, stage 2, and had an awakening that recovery is possible, stage 3, the next stage is implementing boundaries. This is the time when some survivors go no contact, and some choose to implement detached contact, also known as low contact. The important part of this stage is that the survivor is able to gain enough emotional distance to detox from trauma bonding and start looking forward to their life of recovery. Boundaries are individually driven and must be done in a way that will be followed through on by the survivor. At times, some survivors waver on setting limits with their abusers. To set healthy limits may mean the end of the relationship. It's not uncommon for some survivors to get stuck at this stage. I want you guys to know that all is not lost. If this is you and you're stuck at this stage, I've had clients that were stuck at this stage for years. In fact, I have former clients that just are no longer in recovery from narcissistic abuse and from the psychopaths in their life. They began their recovery journey in therapy for years and years, and they hired me to be their trauma recovery coach so that I could help them, establish and maintain some healthy boundaries and make some healthy choices and feel better. But they couldn't follow through with it. They were unable to establish and maintain healthy boundaries. So we wasted I don't want to say wasted, because there was some good things that came out of, the time that we worked together, but, don't waste your money, you guys. If you guys are not ready to establish and maintain healthy boundaries, do not spend the money on a coach. If you are ready and you're like, you know what, I'm going to do whatever it takes. I'm going to do whatever it takes. Boundaries, ending relationships, cutting off the toxic people, and you need support, then yeah, invest in yourself. But if you're not ready, don't spend a whole bunch of money that you don't have if finances are a concern. If you have unlimited capital and you have discretionary income, then knock yourself out. Hire somebody to walk you through and hold you accountable. You're worth it. But if you're tight on finances, do whatever you possibly can to establish and maintain healthy boundaries. Go no contact, go low contact. You need to have some emotional distance between you and the abusers in your life. Whether that's an aunt or an uncle, a cousin, a sibling, a child, an adult child, a parent, an ex-spouse, whatever it is you need to do, you're worth it. But I just caution you, it's not your coach's fault. It's not your therapist's fault if you're not able to establish and maintain healthy boundaries. The only person that gets to choose boundaries is you. The responsibility lies in your lap. You're the one that gets to establish and maintain those healthy boundaries. Your therapist can't do it for you. Your sister can't do it for you. Your brother, your mom, your dad, your grandma, your coach, your therapist, no one can do it for you. You're the one that has to establish and maintain those healthy boundaries, period. It's a bitter pill to swallow. I'm not popular right now, but that's okay. It's the truth, and you guys need to know the truth. On to the final stage, stage 5 of recovery from psychological abuse with a narcissist or a psychopath. Here we go. Stage 5, restoration. After a survivor of psychological abuse has identified their despair in stage 1, educated themselves on the specifics of psychological abuse, stage 2, had an awakening that recovery is possible, stage 3, and has implemented boundaries, in stage 4, the next stage is restoration of the material items, life event moments, financial stability, physical health, mental health, or any other losses the survivor identifies as having been stolen during the season of abuse. This should be an encouraging stage as survivors start to tangibly see the fruits of their recovery work. Restoration can take longer than some survivors expect, so patience with the process of recovery is vitally important. Without patience, a survivor can become easily discouraged. So I just want to encourage you guys. I know a lot of this sounds like a big fat wah-wah, wah-wah, because this is putting a lot of responsibility on you. You were the victim of abuse. You're the survivor. And it is a lot of responsibility to put on you, and it is unfair, and it does suck. So I want to validate that. There's nothing about this that doesn't suck. The only thing that doesn't suck is the amazing feeling of knowing that you're going to be free. You're going to be free, and you're going to be healthy. Freer than you've ever been before, healthier than you've ever been before. You're going to get your life back. You're going to reclaim those things that belong to you. For many of us here on this channel, who show up here every week, and you have for over 3 years now, stage 5 is hard, because how do you get back an entire life, decades and decades and decades and decades of abuse? How do you get that back? What does that even look like? Who am I? I don't even know who I am apart from my abuse. I just want to encourage you that I've asked myself those same questions, and it's hard. It's really, really, really hard. But I'm telling you, it's possible. It's not easy, but it's possible. And it's totally worth it. So I have one last screen share for you from our friend Lily Hope over at Healing from Complex Trauma and PTSD. All of her images and everything you find on her site is copyright protected. I just encourage you to subscribe to her blog. She's a huge encouragement to so many of us. And I'll do a little screen share on one of her memes that she made, one of my favorite ones. There's only one way to deal with narcissistic, sociopathic, psychopathic people. Take away their power to harm you. Take away their power to bother you. Take away your attention. Focus on what is good and healthy. And remember, their issues are all about their darkness inside, and it has nothing to do with anyone else. So I want to end on that positive note. Her website has been such a huge encouragement to me in my own recovery journey. I believe that she and I are, I think we're like similar age. I feel like we're of similar age. I haven't connected with her personally, only online, but I think I'm going to be interviewing her. I'm going to be reaching out and asking her if I can interview her coming up in the future. Even if it's just anonymously, I just believe that she has so much wisdom to share with so many people. She's been through so much, and she's healing. So I encourage you guys to go down in the description section and search the websites that I list down there. There's 3 of them. And I'm grateful to have you guys here. I'm going to answer your questions now. Thank you for sticking around. And let me just take a drink of water. Get your questions in the next few minutes, you guys. I'm going to start answering all your questions. Okay. I need my glasses. Okay. You guys ever have like your eyelashes touch like the insides of your glasses, and it's like really annoying? Sorry, random squirrel. Okay, I'm going to rapid fire these. John Harvey says, how do you spot a psychopath and how do you deal with them? Well, you're definitely going to spot them. Rewind this and go down that list and see how many of the boxes they tick off. I believe in order to get diagnosed as a psychopath, they need to tick off, is it 6 of the boxes or 7 of the boxes? I forget. Got to check the DSM. And the way you deal with them is exactly going through those 5 stages and what Lily says. You just take away their power. You don't give them anything. Their oxygen, what they need to breathe and to live, is your attention and you allowing them access to you. Take away their access to you, you take away their oxygen. They don't deserve your attention. They don't deserve your consideration. It's easier said than done because you have been groomed and taught to be addicted to them, especially if your psychopath happens to be someone that you've known your whole life from birth. You have been groomed to be addicted to them. and it's a dangerous addiction. And if you find yourself compulsively feeling like you need to reach out to them or continue the cycle by communicating with them if they haven't reached out to you in a while, resist that urge. No contact is your best friend, John Harvey. Low contact, no contact. That means no emails, no social media, no texts, no phone calls, no in-person visits, nothing. You get yourself as emotionally separated from them as possible, and you allow yourself to heal. I will post all 5 of these memes, the 5 stages, in our groups so that we can go back and we can reference them. And I'll post the one from Lily as well, and then also screen share from Blair. So if you're already in some of our secret groups where people are healing from abuse, then you'll have access to all the screen shares tonight, and you'll be able to reference them, and it will help you know how to spot them and how to deal with them. Heroes Don't Wear Capes says, is it possible that the enablers in my life were actually the psychopaths? I have a couple that seem to delegate jobs to people that played their part in my abuse. It's absolutely possible. Heroes Don't Wear Capes, that is the most insightful, amazingly accurate question. Like, you couldn't have asked a more accurate question. Yes, many enablers are psychopaths. And there's often a sadistic quality to some of them. Some of them are sadists. Like, they sit back and they watch the carnage that ensues once they press a certain button or allow a certain thing to play out. And they like it. And if you were to call them out on it, they would go, oh my, I can't believe you would say those horrible things about me. I've done nothing but be kind to you. And then they play the victim. So yes, the short answer is yes, absolutely. And they do delegate jobs to people so that they can take part in the abuse. That's exactly what they do. Oh my gosh, don't get me started. Poppy says, do psychopaths have the same obsessive nature like narcissists? Hoovering as well? Unless you meant hovering. Because they hover and they hoover. And the answer is yes. Yes, they do, Poppy. They absolutely do. They don't have to. If they kill you early on, then they have to move on to like a new source of narcissistic supply. They need to sort of get their fix elsewhere. So if you're still alive, then you're hooverable. There's always a potential. And the classic narc psychopath move is like a text or an email that says, hey. Just hey. Because they want you to respond like, yes. What? And then they'll say something like, oh, I didn't mean to send that to you. I meant to send it to somebody else. Or the classic narc move is they want to hoover you back in. They'll send you a message. Did you call me? I have a missed call from you. And you're like, no. Well, I do. I have a missed call from you. It's like, again, see the first diagram that says pathological liar. So, yeah. Oh my gosh, so annoying. I could go on for days, by the way, guys. Can you tell? Like, this is probably like, I've avoided this topic like the plague, but it's probably going to be one of my favorite ones. So, would pressing charges on a psychopath just encourage hoovering behavior? Would they enjoy the court process? Would they enjoy the contact? Yes, Poppy. Beware. Pressing charges on a psychopath or a narcissistic psychopath, narcissistic sociopath, yeah, it's attention. They need it, they like it, they love it. Unless you have an open and shut, concrete case, like fingerprints, video, some sort of proof or something, it's just feeding into what it is that they want. And it sucks, but it's the truth. Monica says, what is the most powerful way to move forward from the relationship with the psychopathic mother? Yeah, oh, Monica, I knew you would ask me this. I had a feeling that you were going to ask me like the most thought-provoking, most painful question of the night, and I'm so grateful that you're here because I know I need to answer these questions. And by the way, keep the videos coming. I'm still catching up on all the videos you send me because you're amazing and I love you. But yeah, Monica, I will say this. No contact. A lot of grieving. Self-compassion, self-love, self-championing, self-care, reparenting, and of course EMDR, because I love EMDR. But yeah, it's possible. I promise, Monica, and those are the most effective things I know because it's what I'm doing. It's what I've done. So I hope that's helpful. Monica also asks, how can we combat the messages that the psychopathic parent told us that we were the problem? Oh my goodness, it is so hard. You have to deprogram. You have to allow yourself to be emotionally distant enough that you can deprogram yourself. And you have to find ways to combat what it is that they said with the actual truth. And one of the best ways to do this, besides the fact that if you have a trauma-informed therapist who can walk you through this process and help you with this, cognitive behavioral therapy is actually really, really, really good for this. And EMDR is exceptionally amazing for this because you begin to recognize where these messages are coming from and how old you were, and you're able to sort of delineate, okay, well, if I'm thinking that, then I'm this age at this moment, I'm feeling this way and thinking these thoughts, behaving this way. And when you're doing EMDR, you're able to sort of like figure out like how old you were when you were feeling those ways. It could be like multiple, right? Like birth, 1, 2, 10, 5, 6, 4, like whatever. But you can nurture, you know, again, like I said, no contact, lots of grieving, self-love, self-compassion, self-championing, self-care. You're able to care for that version of yourself in a very specific way, in a way that reverses the damage that's done. So I hope that's been helpful, Monica. It's super, super effective, I promise. Promise, promise. Anne says, how do you know when someone is a psychopath? Oh yeah, I already answered that one. I hope that the beginning of this video, you can rewind this video, Anne, I believe to about the 15-minute mark, and there should be a screen share. And then also, Anne, in the groups, I'm going to post all these screen shares for you so that you have access to them, because I want you to have access to them so that you know. It's important that we know these things, you guys, so I'm going to make sure you guys have access. Sabra says, is it possible for someone under 18 to be a psychopath? One of my abusers was under that age, but they did things that made me, make me hurt people, and they were very manipulative in their traits. I hate that a few of my abusers were so young. It causes some issues. Yes, so Sabra, to answer your first question, it is possible for someone under 18 to be a psychopath. Many clinicians, doctors, psychologists, psychiatrists, and academics would disagree with me. Many of them I have a tremendous amount of respect for. They would disagree with me, but the warning signs are there. Many of the descriptors that are listed in the first screen share that I gave you guys have to do with being a juvenile, being under 18. So the warning signs are there, and it is possible. And I do remember I had a stepsister that was under 18. I had two stepsisters, and they were both under 18, and they were, I believe, they exhibited characteristics of psychopathy. They were extremely sadistic. They were bullies. Very painful to even think about. So yes. And yeah, and one of them would make the other one hurt me. So I've been sort of on the ass end of that. And you know what? I want to validate what you said. Sabra says, I hate that a few of my abusers were so young. It causes some issues. I want to validate that in that, you know, it is difficult for us as adults to view children as predators. And we tend to lean on the side of compassion. But I want to encourage you to remember the age that you were when your abuse was happening, the way you were treated, the manipulation, the mind screw that is trying to solve the puzzle in your mind of, but this person's young, but I'm enduring such pain. So that is really, really hard. But I'll sit with you in this, Sabra. You're not alone. Like, seriously, it's really, really, really hard. What you're describing is something I have experience with. So Shalene says, is it possible for a psychopath to be attracted to a narcissist, and can they be in a relationship? Yes. And honestly, psychopaths are all narcissists. Not all narcissists are psychopaths, but all psychopaths are narcissists. And again, there are people out there that don't agree with me, and that's fine. But it's my opinion. So, and yes, they do. They get into relationships with one another, and they spur one another on in their pursuits, and it's really just terrifying. And one of them usually has a very distinct role of being like the responder or the victim one. More covert narcissists will be in relationships with overt narcissists and allow themselves to be victimized so that they can, because remember, one of the rules of narcissistic abuse, psychopathic abuse, is I must always be the center of attention. I must always be the biggest hero. And if I can't be the biggest hero of the story, I will be the biggest victim. So just remember that. That's a good rule of thumb. Shalene also says, I've heard that psychopaths can be really nice to their children. Is this true? What are the signs that they are, in fact, psychopaths? Refer back to the first screen share on knowing whether or not they are a psychopath. And the only reason I want to be really, really, really careful when I say this, and I want you guys to hear me. The only reason for a psychopath to be nice to their children is if they are using their children as pawns. Okay? They have somehow found a way to use their children to make them feel important, to make them feel special, to make them feel superhuman. That's the only time psychopaths are nice to their children, is to use them to bring them whatever it is that they need. So if you see someone that you know is a psychopath and they have children and they're being nice to their children, you better believe that that child is going to have quite the mind screw and grow up and be extremely confused and need to be in recovery for emotional abuse. Sometimes, in order to survive, the psychopath has the psychopath's child simply turns into the younger version of their psychopathic parent, and that is when, I mean, the abuse cycle gets perpetuated, and the cycle doesn't get broken. So, again, the only time a psychopath or a narcissist is nice to their children is if they're using their children to feel good about themselves They're using their children to get ahead. They're using their children to get money from the system. They're using their children to gain some sort of, let's say it's a covert narcissist, then they will use their children to make sure that they're receiving every single granule of narcissistic supply that they can possibly receive by scapegoating their children or using their children to work the system in some way that will benefit them. So I hope that was helpful. Desi says, can a sociopathic narcissist later on in life turn into a psychopathic narcissist? One of my primary caregivers is much more brazen about his abuse now than when I was young. That is possible, Desi, but I almost don't, what you're describing in essence is possible, but I don't know that they switched from being a sociopath to a psychopath, rather than their narcissism has just gotten out of control. Their narcissism has grown to the point where they're careless the way a psychopath would be. But it's so, I don't know, it's almost like two sides of the same coin, if you know what I'm saying. I don't doubt that your mother or father or your primary caregiver is a narcissist and that you've endured horrific abuse and mind scrambling, and it's confusing, and it's just the mind screw that is growing up in that type of environment. I would focus less on, are they a psychopathic narcissist or are they a sociopathic narcissist? Are they a narcissistic sociopath or a narcissistic psychopath? I would focus less on that and just go, you know what, they're fucked up and I'm going to get away because you deserve to heal. And I'm so sorry for like F-bombing if I'm triggering anybody by cursing. I apologize. But like seriously, whatever we want to call them, the primary focus is totally you and you healing and you feeling better and not having to deal with them anymore because you deserve it. And I'm so sorry that one of your primary caregivers is a narcissistic sociopath or psychopath. Because, like, I know what that feels like, and I'm so sorry. I'm really, really, really sorry. It's just heartbreaking. Anne says, so my mother, who I feel was either a psychopath or a sociopath, was extremely charming. So maybe more sociopathic, right? Because sometimes like psychopaths they're not very charming. Like, they're kind of like, I like what Desi said, brazen. Anne goes on and she says, I don't see that on the list. She had almost all of the other criteria of a psychopath. So, Anne, I would say that perhaps, see, someone who's charming is more sociopathic or narcissistic, or very, very charismatic, you know, a little smooth. I would say sociopaths are more charming and malignant narcissists are more charming than just your average garden variety psychopath. There's like no need for them to be charming. They don't need it. They don't need it because why? Who cares? Like, that's their mindset, you know? And again, Anne, I am so sorry. I wish I didn't know how you felt, but I do. Rach C says, my abuser was a teenager at the time. As an adult, he was diagnosed bipolar. He had a lot of children, alcoholism, was repeatedly suicidal, and in May of 2017, he did complete his suicide. I think that is what finally allowed me to begin therapy in August. How will this affect my healing? For the better or for the worse? He is dead. Got to be released. but I am stuck in self-disgust and aloneness that feels impossible to change. So I want to, first of all, say that I am so sorry that you endured this type of abuse. And I want to be very clear. In fact, let me get out of this window and look at you in the face. I want to be really, really, really clear, okay? Bipolar or not, teenager or not, there is no excuse for abuse. None. Zero. No excuse. I feel like I want to sit up in my chair when I talk to you. Like, there is absolutely no excuse for the abuse that you endured. And the fact that he was diagnosed and that he was suicidal, it's almost like he's still abusing you from the grave, because there's that almost like survivor guilt there. Or there is a supposed, almost like suggested survivor guilt. There's no excuse for abuse. And I would say that his death, it was a he, right? Was it a she? I'm so sorry. I believe it was a man, a boy. He. I'm glad that you've begun therapy. I know you're only a month in. The fact that he completed his suicide, it could be tempting to feel compassion. See, let me get out of this window. It always messes up the camera, but see, there's a temptation for us. There's a temptation for us to move from confusion to compassion, especially when it happened when we were young. So we like, why would they abuse me? Why did this happen? Why me? Why them? Why? And then we immediately move to compassion. Like, well, they were mentally ill. They were bipolar. It's all they knew. They were abused when they were younger, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we skip the anger part. So to answer your question directly, which was, how will this affect my healing, for the better or for the worse? He is dead. I would say that where it's going to get you stuck, and this is nothing to stop your healing process or affect you or frustrate you, but just be aware of you perhaps moving from confusion to compassion and skipping your anger. Not having access to your anger, which is pretty important. We need to be able to be angry about the fact that you were abused. No one deserves to be abused. No one. And so we need to be able to access that anger so we can feel all of our feels, because when we feel all of our feels, we heal. So I identify deeply with the place you're in where you're stuck in self-disgust and aloneness and it feels impossible right now. I identify with that very strongly, but I want to encourage you that this is a temporary stage that you're in right now, and it will shift, and you can't force it to shift. All you can do is sit with every single one of your feelings and look at every one of your feelings, acknowledge every one of your feelings, and don't judge them. As much as you might have been taught from society or from parents or from whatever that you aren't ever supposed to feel anger because anger is dangerous and it hurts people, when we put a label or a judgment on any of our feelings, we keep ourselves from healing. So if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling alone, if you're feeling shamey, if you're feeling disgust, if you're feeling really like just bugged out about something, or you're just feeling like really ragey and you're just like whatever, just sit with whatever feelings you're feeling and allow yourself to feel every single one of your feelings and thank those feelings. Like they're indicators. It indicates that something has happened to you that was significant and that there's something to heal from. So I'd say where it's going to get you stuck is maybe not being able to access your anger. That's my best guess. Again, not a doctor, not a psychiatrist. So I hope that's helpful, Rach. SM says, how do I heal from the psychopathic abuser clearly enjoying the torture? My example is him stealing from me and then beating me for allowing myself to be stolen from. Yeah, what you're dealing with, SM, what you're dealing with is a sadistic, narcissistic psychopath. Yeah, you're dealing with a dark triad. So Google that. Google dark triad, or even just type in dark triad, highlight it, right click, and Wiki will pop up for you. And it's going to describe the person you're telling me about. And your question is how to heal from that. I would go through that 5-part model that that the gal shares with us, the gal from Texas, the screen shares. I would allow yourself to go through that model and acknowledge everything that comes up for you. If you're feeling in despair, if you're feeling frustrated, if you're feeling afraid, if you're feeling angry, if you're feeling hopeless, if you're feeling ragey, like whatever it is, I would acknowledge all of those feelings. And the most important thing in the whole world right now, SM Blondo, I believe that's how you say it. If I'm saying your name wrong, I'm so sorry. It's just your screen name and I don't know how to say it. But the most important thing for you right now is that you have no physical contact and no emotional contact. Delete them out of your phone or block them. Don't let them follow you on social media. You block them. Don't let them text you. Don't let them stop by. Like, do whatever you can to have physical and emotional distance, because you're going to need to detox from the sadism and just the effects of psychopathy, being around it, you know? And torture is nothing to laugh about. It's not a word that's just thrown around. I do believe that people enjoy torture. I know what it's like to be tortured, and it's horrible. It is dehumanizing. And even you mentioning the fact that he steals from you and then he beats you for allowing yourself to be stolen from. And it's very dehumanizing. It's very degrading. That is someone who is a narcissistic psychopath. They are a criminal. And if you're in this relationship now, I need you to be safe and get away somehow. There are shelters. There are numbers that we can call. I mean, it is just, no contact is a big deal right now. We need for you to be able to be safe and be away from this person. I'm losing you guys. I think I'm getting close to the end of the broadcast here. So I'm going to answer as many more questions as I can. Joey says, would you say that my mother is a psychopath? Everyone that doesn't know her like I do loves her, and she takes all that glory in, but then I look like the crazy one and that I am lying. I would say that your mother is a narcissist. And I would say that she could be a little, she might be a sociopath. I honestly think your mom is either a dark triad or a dark tetrad, to be quite honest, because she enjoys harming you, Joey. She experiences joy. She takes pleasure in harming you and watching you get harmed. She allowed you to be victimized, and she just smiles and puts on the show. So I do believe you're dealing with a dark triad or a dark tetrad, Joey. And again, no contact if possible. I realize that there are a bajillion reasons why you can't have no contact with her. I understand that every situation is different. All I can do is hold a safe space for you and tell you that you're not alone, and hope that somehow, some way, someday you can get away, because it's criminal, the things that your mother is allowed to get away with, to be quite honest. Willow says, I don't know if I was kidnapped or sold into being trafficked. Would it be likely that one or both of my parents would be psychopathic if they did sell me? Yes, Willow. And I have the privilege of knowing a little bit about your story, Willow, because you've shared with me previously on several different broadcasts. And I would say that you are dealing with someone who is either psychopathic or sociopathic, to be quite honest. And I would truly ask that you look up dark triad and dark tetrad, honestly. Yeah, what you've lived through is criminal. It's criminal activity. And I believe that the person you're dealing with is a narcissistic sociopath or dark triad or dark tetrad. SM says, more concern than question, but my mother was a psychopath obsessed with herself. She died years ago, and I have trouble feeling sorry for her being gone. Okay, yeah, I'm not concerned at all. It's a healthy sense of growth for you, that you're able to just release yourself from that bondage that was her narcissism and her sadistic behavior. So she sounds like a narcissistic sociopath or narcissistic psychopath, and the fact that you don't have remorse for her being gone, I don't think that is a red flag at all. I think that's healthy ego boundaries. Healthy ego boundaries, something that you were robbed of from a very, very young age. You were robbed of your healthy ego boundaries, and porous ego boundaries were replaced, and that's not okay. That's abusive. And so I'm grateful that you're in that place. Willow says, is a psychopath more likely to be the abusers or to sit back and be the dictator of the abuse? I'd say 6 one hand, half a dozen in the other, Willow, honestly. Like, psychopaths actually they kind of like being overtly abusive. They like it. Like, they get bored easy. So they kind of like being involved, and, sitting back isn't normally their thing. But I mean, if they have sort of an unspoken agreement with someone else who's narcissistic or sociopathic or psychopathic, someone else who's abusive, but then they might sit back, because like it's almost like, okay, you can have this turn and then I'll be next type of a thing. You know what I mean? So I'd say both. Shalene says, how are psychopaths formed? How do they become a psychopath? That is a whole nother video, Shalene. Sadly, I believe that there are a lot of factors. I actually can't even go into that. I'm going to have to record another video. Yeah, I'm sorry. I want to be able to answer, but it's a really long explanation, and I'm coming up towards the end of the video. Shalene also asked, do psychopaths target a specific type of person or just everybody? Okay, this is a perfect question to end on. Sorry that I didn't get to the rest of the questions, you guys, but okay. There is some research that's been done. Empirical evidence. Empirical evidence. There is quantitative research. This is not just anecdotal evidence. This is actual studies that have been done with samples of individuals. There is a foundation on the East Coast somewhere. It's run by Sandra L. Brown. Google her name, Sandra L. Brown. And she talks about narcissists targeting certain characteristics in people, certain job, like job descriptions, a certain type of characteristics that they target. And it's fascinating research. So again, empirical evidence, not anecdotal evidence. This isn't just like a theory or whatever. This is like actual studies. I think she works with Purdue, or maybe it's Harvard, Yale. I don't know. One of the Ivy League. There's some Ivy League colleges, and Sandra L. Brown works with them, and she's done research, and it actually talks about the types of job descriptions and people that psychopaths and narcissists target. So I hope this has been helpful for you guys. I kind of liked sitting in my comfy chair, and I might need to find a way to maybe just have it sort of straight on. I couldn't get the computer to do the right thing and like at the right angle, and it was sort of like too low or too high. And so anyway, I hope this has been helpful for you guys. I always love spending time with you. And if you have questions for me or other topics that are interesting to you that will help you heal from the abuse that you've endured, please leave those comments below in the comment section of this video. I don't have access to the YouTube chat, so I'm not reading those comments, and I would love to have them be published below so that I can read them later. So let me know, though. Let me know what topics are helpful for you. You guys are the ones that choose every single topic, and I sort of move them around depending on how I'm feeling, how wobbly or solid I'm feeling. I'm feeling rather solid this week. I've been doing some deep EMDR work, some inner child work, some IFS, some different modalities that are really good for trauma, and I'm having tremendous results. So whoever tells you that healing is not possible is lying, because I've been through a lot, and I'm healing more strong and more solid than I was before anything ever happened to me, probably. So I will never know who I would have been had my abuse and exploitation not taken place, but I do know who I'm becoming, and I like her. She's amazing. She's doing a lot of amazing things. So thanks for being on this journey with me. I enjoy doing these sessions with you, these long, extended 90-minute sessions. And I will see you next week, every single Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, where we talk about healing from complex trauma. And let me know your thoughts below this video. And thanks for giving this video a thumbs up. Thanks for subscribing to this channel and clicking the little bell so you can get updates. Everything you do in this community just means the world to me. So if you want to get welcomed into one of our safe groups, then please let me know. You can send me an email, athena@athenamoberg.com. Okay, bye you guys.